Hello dear students, how are you? I hope you all are doing very well at home. Today we are going to continue with another session of mathematics. Already if you see the videos, I have completed relations, which is a chapter 1 of your class 12th mathematics, and continuing the series, today I am going to take functions, which is again a very important topic for your competitive exams as well as for your board exams. Functions is an important chapter, as in it is spread throughout your mathematics. If you see your 11th standard mathematics and 12th standard mathematics, chapters like differential calculus and integral calculus play a very prominent role for your competitive exams as well as for your board exams. And functions is one chapter which is the foundation, or you may say a basic pillar for these chapters. So without wasting any further time, let us start the chapter functions. So I am going to take it from the very basic definition of functions. Let me put maths here. Yeah, functions. So already we have seen relations. A function is defined as a special type of relation. A function is nothing but a special type of relation. A function is a special type of relation. For example, let there are two non-empty sets. A and B are two non-empty sets. Okay, I mean they are non-void sets. So these are two sets A and B, and you know a Cartesian product from A to B. A Cartesian product from A to B, that is your Cartesian product of A and B. Any subset of your Cartesian product, any subset of your A into B is nothing but a relation. Any subset of A into B is a relation. Now from relation we need to see function, that is which particular relation will be known as function. Which particular relation will be known as function. For example, let me say here there is a B and 1, 2, 3. A, B are the elements of set A and 1, 2, 3 are the elements of set B. So your Cartesian product A into B is nothing but A1, A2, A3, B1, B2 and B3. B1, B2 and B3. This is a set which is containing ordered pairs, where first element of the ordered pair is an element of set A and second element of ordered pair is an element of set B. This is your Cartesian product. Now if you see carefully, there are 6 elements in this. I mean your cardinal number of A cross B, or your Cartesian product A and B, cardinal number is 6, because 6 elements are there, 3 plus 3. So how many subsets can be formed? Number of subsets, or now you may say relations also. Number of subsets or relations, that is 2 power n, so 2 power 6 number of relations can be formed. Now out of these 2 power 6 relations, how many of them will be functions? That we have to see. As I told, a function is a special type of relation. That is, which of the following will be functions? Which of the following relations will be functions? That we need to see. So for that there is a definition, we have to follow a particular rule, and the rule is a relation is a function. A relation is a function if two conditions are there. Let me say condition 1 or criteria 1. A relation is also said to be a function if all elements of set A, all elements of set A are related to elements of set B. All elements of set A are related to elements of set B. All the elements of set A are related to elements of set B. That is criteria number 1. And one more criteria is there. An element of set A set A is associated, or you may say related, association or relation or related to unique element of set B. Uniqueness has to be there, to unique element of set B. An element of set A is associated or related to unique element of set B. These are the two criteria. Only when these two criteria are satisfied by a particular relation, then that relation will be also known as a function. If a particular relation does not satisfy this criteria, then the relation will only be a relation, but it will not become a function. So these are the two conditions, that is, all elements of set A are related to elements of set B, and an element of set A is associated or related to a unique element of set B. This word is important, unique. Now let me do one thing. Let me test these two conditions. Let me test both the conditions, and through some examples I will explain you which of the following relations are functions. We have to test. So let me give you an illustration or an example to make you understand these two criteria. Meanwhile you note it down. Let us try to understand the function from an illustration. Okay. So again I take the same set. Let us say this is set A and this is set B. Here the elements are A, B, and here it is 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So I wrote Cartesian product as A1, A2, A3, B1, B1, B2, B3. This is your Cartesian product from A to B, and I am now listing totally 2 power 6 number of relations are there. I am listing some specific relations, and we will test whether those relations are functions or not. We know the property of function, that is, all elements of set A are related to elements of set B, and an element of set A is related to unique element of set B. An element of set A is related or associated to unique element of set B. So this is your Cartesian product A cross B. So let me say relation R1 as A1. This is one relation. Relation U is you know that it is nothing but a subset of your Cartesian product. So some of the relations I am just listing down. And relation is also a set only. So ordered pair is taken and then enclosed in this curly brackets. R2 is A1, A3. R3 is A1, B1, B3. R4 is A1, B2. R5 is A1, A2, B1, B2. This is your R5, and lastly your R6 is, or let us say these are the 5 relations. Okay, these are the 5 relations. Now let us start from one by one. R1. So since this is your first example, you can just make a diagram and you can test these two criteria. Criteria should be checked in the order. First you have to check criteria number 1, and if criteria number 1 is over, then you have to check criteria number 2. So let us start. So for R1 I am making the diagram like this. Again you have to make this set A and set B only. This is your set A, this is set B. So A, B, and here is 1, 2, 3. Now what it is said, what is R1? Let me write here R1. R1 is A comma 1. This is your R1. Okay, so observe here carefully. Criteria number 1 is all elements of set A are related to elements of set B. All the elements of set A are to be related, but it is not said all the elements of set B. It means that there can be some elements in set B which may not be related to elements of set A, but all the elements of set A has to be related. That is important criteria. Try to understand, all elements of set A are to be related. So this relation says that A is related to 1. Now this is your relation. Whether it is a function? No. Why? Because definition 1 is, or criteria 1 is all elements of set A are related to elements of set B, but here B is not related. A is related, very good, but B is not related. It means criteria number 1 is cancelled. It means this does not become a function. I hope this is clear to you. You have to check both the criteria in the order only. Okay, so that is R1 is not a function. It is a relation, but it is not a function. Now R2. So again, this is your set A. This is your set B. A, B, 1, 2, 3. And what it is? A1, A3. A1, A3. A is related to 1, A is related to 3. That is your R2. R2. A1, A3. Let us test it. All elements of set A are related to elements of set B. All elements. Now here A is related to 1, A is related to 3. But what about B? B is not at all related. So here first criteria itself goes away, because B is not related to element. One more thing, here second criteria is also not satisfied, because an element of set A is related to unique element of set B. Here if you see carefully, A is related to 1 as well as related to 3. This should not be there because uniqueness is not there. Here A, from elements of set A, only one arrow has to go. From a particular element of set A, only one arrow has to go. But from here, from A, two arrows are going. It means that uniqueness is not there. A is not related to unique element of set B. So both the criteria are violated. So I say that this is only a relation but not a function. Let us see criteria number 3. Criteria number 3. So again, this is your set A, this is your set B. Here A, B, and 1, 2, 3. So A is related to 1, B is related to 1, and B is related to 3. B is related to 1 and B is related to 3. So let us check this. Let us check this. So if you see carefully, A is related to 1 and B is related to 2 or 3. Now let us see the criteria. Criteria 1 is criteria number 1 satisfied all the elements of set A. Yes, here all the elements of set A are related. All the elements of set A are related because both A and B both are related. Criteria number 1 is satisfied. But what about criteria number 2? An element of set A is related to unique element of set B. If you see here, B is related to 2 as well as related to 3. So criteria number B is violated. So since both the criteria are not satisfied simultaneously, I say that this is also not a function. It is only a relation but not a function. I hope this example is also clear to you. R3 is a relation but it is not a function. Now let us check criteria number 4. So this is your set A, this is your set B. So this is A, B, 1, 2, 3. Relation 4 is A is related to 1 and B is related to 2. A is related to 1 and B is related to 2. Let us check this relation whether it is a function or not. So again, criteria number 1 says that all the elements of set A. Now here there are two elements of set A and both are related. Very good. Criteria number 1 is satisfied. Criteria number 2, uniqueness has to be there. An element of set A has to be related to unique element of set B. Very good. Not a problem. So this is a function. This is a function also. This relation is a function also. That's why I said that a function is nothing but a special type of relation. So A is related to 1 as well as B is related to 2. So criteria 1 and criteria 2, uniqueness is also there. Here an element of set B is left. Not a problem. Not a problem. We have to just verify the definition of function. That is how function is defined. Okay, so function is defined that all elements of set A are to be related and an element of set B has to be uniquely associated. So that is fine. So that is your R4. Now let us see R5. R5 is, this is your set A, this is your set B, A, B, 1, 2, 3. A is related to 1, A is related to 2, B is related to 1 and B is related to 2. That is your R5. Now what do you have to say about R5? R5 is also not a function. Criteria A is satisfied but B is not satisfied. Why? Because A is related to 1, also related to 2. So uniqueness is not there. Uniqueness is not there. So criteria B is, criteria second is violated. So I say R5 is also not a function. I am going to take one more example, R6. So let me take it here itself, R6. R6 let me say is A1, B1. A1, B1. Let us check whether this is a function or not. A1, B1. So if you see carefully, let me draw it here itself, A1. So A is related to 1 and B is related to 1. So we have to check whether it is a function or not. Now, criteria. 1 says that all elements of set A are related to elements of set B. All the elements are related? Yes. Criteria 1 is satisfied. What about criteria 2? An element of set A is related to unique element of set B. This element from here, from a particular element only one arrow has to go. From here only one arrow is going. And this is related to uniqueness. Very good. And B is also uniquely related to 1. That is also fine. That's also correct. So this is a function. This is a function. Clarity is there. Here these elements may be empty, not a problem. They may not have any association because we are just following the definition of the function. See, they may be related, may not be related. Okay. But elements of set A, all the elements have to be related, and from a particular element of set A, only one arrow has to go. From one element, two arrows cannot go. That is the meaning of uniqueness. That's the meaning of uniqueness. That is how you have to identify uniqueness. So an element of set A is uniquely associated to element of set B. I hope this concept is clear to you. So this R6 is also a function. This is also a function. So I hope both the criteria are clear to you, and that is how you have to test whether it is a function or not. So this is known as your pictorial diagrams. By this you can just check whether is a relation is a function or not. And I am going to give you one more test, which is a graphical test for any, suppose any relation is given. So through the graph also you can test whether it is a function or not. So that is the definition of your functions. Now you can note it down, and I take few more examples and then I will give you the graphical test, which is also known as a vertical test, and then we will take some more examples. Note it down. So I am giving you one more illustration. Let me say that this is your set A, this is your set B. The elements of set A are A, B, C, and the elements of set B are 1, 2, 3. So some of the relations I am giving you. R1 is A1, B3, R2 is A1, B2, C3, R3 is A2, B2, B3, and R4 is A1, B1, C1. 4 relations are there. We need to check whether they are functions or not. So we know both the criteria. All the elements of set A to be unique. All the elements of set A are associated and their association is unique. A is related to 1, B is related to 3. Very good, but where is C? C is not related, so this is not a function. A is related to 1, B related to 2, C related. Any A, B, C, all the 3 are there, and apart from that, uniqueness is also there. A is related to 1 only, B is related to 2 only, C is related to 3 only. So this is a function. What about R3? A is related to 2, B is related to 2, C is not there. Criteria number 1 is dissatisfied here, and uniqueness is also not there because b is related to 2 as well as to 3, so this is also not a function. What about here? Yes, criteria 1 is satisfied because a is related to 1, b and c are also related. What about uniqueness? A is related to 1 only, b is related to 1 only, c is also related to 1 only, so here also uniqueness is there. So R2 and R4 are functions. These two are functions and these two are not the functions. So I hope the concept of function is clear to you. Now the next concept is domain and range of a function. Domain and range of a function. Domain and range of a function. For example, here this is a function, this R2. Now let me call it as, for example, let me call it as f2. F2 is a function. Okay, f2 is a function. So this f2 is basically your a1, b2 and c3. Okay, so domain of a function means the collection of first elements of the ordered pair. Domain of a function means the collection of first elements of a ordered pair, the collection of first elements of a ordered pair. So here the domain of the function will become a, b, c. This is the domain of the function. If you see carefully, your domain of the function is nothing but your domain of the relation, or you may also say, you may say that it is the of the Cartesian product A cross B we have taken, that is your set A, that becomes your domain. So domain of the function is the collection of first elements of the ordered pairs of the function, whereas range of the function is nothing but the collection of second ordered pair, second elements of the ordered pair. So that is your 1, 2, 3, that is your range of the function. This is your domain, this is your range. I hope this is clear to you. Now this is your R4 is also a function, so let me denote it as F4. So F4 is basically A1, B1, C1. Okay, so if you see here, domain of the function, domain D of the function here is, as I told you, the collection of first elements of the ordered pair, so that becomes A, B, C. What about range of the function? Range of the function is basically here 1 only, because that is your second element is 1 only, so that is your range. I hope this concept is clear to you regarding domain and range of a function. We have to collect the domain and range from the elements of the functions only. Okay, from the elements of the functions. Elements of the functions means from the ordered pairs you have to collect it. So that is your domain and range. And there is a one more term which is defined as your codomain. Codomain here is your set B. Codomain here is your set B. Codomain of the function is here is your set B. Clarity is that codomain is set B. Codomain means your domain means your set A. Since all the elements of set A are associated, so we are also calling it as domain of a function. And your codomain is set B. Now out of set B only some of the elements are related. For example, if you see here F4, so that is A is related to 1, B related to 1, C related to 1. So the elements of set B which find association, their set comprises of your range. So that is your codomain and this is your range. I hope this concept is clear to you. So you must be clear about domain, range and codomain of any function. Generally codomain will not be given to you. Generally codomain will not be given to you. So for a real valued function means whose domain, that function whose range is a real set or a part of a or a subset of a real numbers. Codomain of a real valued function is always R. Codomain of a real valued function is always R. R here means real numbers, minus infinity to infinity. So if range either becomes your real numbers, that is your codomain, or range is a subset of codomain. You see here, range may be a subset of codomain or range may be equal to codomain also. If you see here in R2, this or your F2, set A, set B, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. A is related to 1, B to 2, C to 3. Now here your domain is ABC and range is your 1, 2, 3. Codomain is also 1, 2, 3. So that's what I am trying to say, that real valued function means that function whose range is either a real set or as a subset of real set. That is your real valued function. And codomain for a real valued function is always to be taken as R. Whenever in question codomain is not given, then you assume it to be R. Codomain is always to be assumed to be R. Questions will be always asked to find domain and range of a function. Never the questions are asked on to find the codomain of a function, because in our syllabus we are having only real valued function. Actually the name of this chapter should be real valued function instead of functions. So, or I mean that is what is the concept here, that is your codomain is always R, whether it is not given very good, otherwise if not given then you have to assume codomain to be R. Your range will always be a subset of codomain or it will be a same as codomain. So I hope this concept about domain, range and codomain is also clear to you. So these are the concepts. Now we have to move to the next concept, which is domain and codomain of functions. So before going to that concept, that is calculating the domain and codomain of functions, we must have a list of some general functions which are which repeat again and again. So what I am going to do is some basic functions, the domain and range and their basic graphs I am going to show you. So I hope this concept is clear to you. So that is your testing of functions. Okay, in testing of functions what you have to do is check all the elements of set A whether they are related, and the relation should be uniqueness. Uniqueness has to be followed in the relationship, and that is your domain, range and codomain. I hope this concept is clear to you. Note it down. So as you have covered the definition of function, let us take a small question here. Which of them is a function? 4 options are there. This is your x-axis, y-axis. Question asked here is which of them is a function. So as we told that in functions all the elements of set A are to be related to elements of set B, that is your criteria 1, and the second criteria is that uniqueness has to be there. So if you see carefully here, I am giving you one test which is known as graphical test to identify whether it is a function or not, graphical test. And that is your, basically what you have to draw is, you have to know the graph, okay, draw the graph, as in here the graph is already given, and second is draw a straight line parallel to y-axis. Draw a straight line parallel to y-axis. If it cuts the curve, or your graph at more than one point, then it is not a function. Then your given curve or the graph is not a function. And draw the graph. Sometimes graph may not be given to you. Mathematical relationship may be given to you. From there you can draw the graph, as in here the graph is already given. And draw a straight line parallel to y-axis. If the line, that is the straight line which is parallel to y-axis, cuts the graph at more than one point, then it is not a function. This is also known as vertical test. Vertical test or vertical graphical test, any name you can give. So what is the reason for this, that I will explain you later, but first let us test this method. So we are drawing a straight line parallel to y-axis. You see here this graph or this line cuts the graph at only one point, it means this is a function. Here if we try this method, I'm drawing a straight line parallel to y-axis. Now here the graph cuts at more than one point, here as well as here. It means it is not a function. This is not a function. As far as option C is there, again I draw a straight line parallel to y-axis. This line also cuts the graph at only one point, so this is also a function. Here again I test this method, I draw a straight line parallel to y-axis, but here again it cuts the graph at 2 points, so this is not a function. So your answers are A and C. A and C. A and C, both of them are functions, whereas your B and D, they are not functions. They are relations, but they are not functions. All the four are relations, but in that relations A and C turned out to be functions also, whereas B and T failed this test. Now try to understand the reason. See, generally your x-axis, your domain of a function, domain is nothing but it falls on your x-axis. Okay, whenever you have to see the domain, you see x-axis. Whenever you have to see a range, then you have to see y-axis. Domain, for domain you have to check your x-axis and the range you will get on y-axis. Now observe here, there is a particular x, this particular x is there, this particular x, this x is giving two values of y, this x is giving two values of y. What does it mean? It means that this particular x, which is a element of your domain, is related to two elements of codomain. Try to understand once again. This particular x is related to this y as well as to this y. Yani uniqueness is not followed, and that your rule 2 is, criteria 2 is violated here, and that's the reason that it lost the concept of function. Same is here. Here for this particular x, there are two y's. One is this y and one is this y, and that is why this test works very well to identify whether a given relation, a given graph is a function or not. I hope this concept is clear to you. If it is given in terms of sets, that is your when diagrams are given, then accordingly what you can do is you can use the concept there, all the elements of set A and uniqueness. If it is given in terms of graph, then you can use this concept, draw a straight line parallel to y-axis, let it cut the y-axis at more than, if it cuts the y-axis at more than one point or your graph at more than one point, then it is not a function, otherwise it's a function. I hope the concept is clear to you. Note it down, and now I am going to take some basic graphs, some basic functions. Note it down. So let us continue with the domain and range of some basic functions. So I am putting here types of functions. Types of functions. This list is very important for us so that we can solve the questions properly. So types of functions. So the first function is your constant function. Constant function. That may be defined like this: f of x is equals to k, or you can also write y is equals to k. F of x is equals to k or y is equals to k. Okay, so this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. F of x is k, that is y is a constant, y is k. So this is that particular k, and that is your graph. It's a constant function. You can see for this x also y is k, for this x also y is k, for this x also, for every x y is k. The domain of this function is R and the range of this function is k. This R represents your real numbers, which you can write like this also, minus infinity to infinity, and range is your k, because only one element is there in the range. So that is your constant function. Second type of function is identity function. Identity function. So identity function is basically fx is equals to x, or you can also write y is equals to x. Your fx is nothing but your y only. Fx is equals to x or y is equals to x. So the graph would be this. This is your x-axis, y-axis. For example, if x is 0, y is also 0. For x1, y is 1. For x2, y is also 2. And similarly for x minus 1, y is minus 1. For every element, your x and y are same. So that is your identity function. Here if you see the domain is your R, because all the elements of your x-axis will be related, and your range is also R. Range is also R. Why? Because in the output, range is nothing but the collection of outputs. So this graph will extend from minus infinity to infinity. As I told you, for range you have to see the y-axis, elements of y-axis, and for domain you have to see the elements of your x-axis. So this graph, since it's going like this, so it will cover all the values of x as well as all the values of y. That's why I am saying domain is R and range is R. I hope the concept is clear. So that is your constant function and identity function. Let us take modulus function and greatest integer function also. Note it down. Okay. So your third function would be modulus function. Modulus function, or it is also known as absolute value function. Its another name is absolute value function. Absolute value function. So let us try to understand this function, modulus function. We can write fx is equals to mod x. This is the representation of modulus function, two vertical bars, or y is equals to mod x. Basically, y is equals to mod x means plus x whenever x is greater than equals to 0, or minus x whenever x is less than 0. Y equals to mod x means plus x whenever x is greater than equals to 0, or minus x whenever x is less than 0. For example, suppose you are asking me mod of 2. Now 2 is a positive number, 2 is greater than 0, so that will be taken as plus 2. Whereas if you ask me mod of minus 2, now since minus 2 is negative, minus 2 is less than 0, so what I have to take? Minus x, any minus of minus 2, which becomes what? Plus 2. Observe once again, mod of 2, so this is plus 2. Now since plus 2 is greater than equals to 0, so I have to take plus 2. And mod of minus 2, now since minus 2 is less than 0, so I have to take minus of minus 2, which again becomes what? Plus 2. So mod of 2 as well as mod of minus 2 both are nothing but 2, but you have to know that definition. Similarly, you can write like this also, mod of x square you have to write as mod x, and mod of cos square x. For example, suppose you are writing mod of cos square x, so that should be written as, under root of cos square x should be written as mod of cos x, which is nothing but plus cos x whenever your cos x is greater than 0, or you have to write minus cos x whenever your cos x is less than 0. You know cos x when it is greater than 0. In your first quadrant and fourth quadrant, cos x is a positive function, whereas in your second quadrant, ASTC, you know, second quadrant and your third quadrant, cos x is negative. So you have to take there as minus of cos x as far as this function is concerned. I hope this concept is clear to you. And we can draw the graph also. If you draw the graph of this function, let it be your x-axis and y-axis. Now if you see all the values, means greater than equals to 0 as well as less than 0 and 0, all the values you can put in this function. So that means your domain is your R and range is only positive. If your x is greater than 0, if x is greater than 0, then y is same as x. So if x is positive, then y is same as x, and if x is negative, then y is same as minus x. So you know the graph of minus x, this is the graph of minus x, but this has to take only for x less than negative, so we are taking it only for x less than negative. I hope this is clear to you. Once again, when your x is greater than 0, you have to take the graph of y is equals to x, and when x is negative, then you have to take the graph of y is equals to minus x. So this is the graph of y equals to minus x, y is equals to minus x. Now if you see your domain and range carefully, the domain is R and your range is 0 to infinity. Range, if you see, is from 0 to infinity. The domain is R because all the elements of this particular set, your real numbers are included, whereas range only positive numbers and 0 is included. Non-negative numbers are not there in the range. So I hope this concept is clear to you. Apart from this, there are some properties of modulus function. That is, let us say that you are having something like this. Let us say two positive numbers a and b are two positive real numbers, and if you are having like this, x square is less than equals to a square. Suppose you are having x square less than equals to a square, so you know basically you can solve x minus a into x plus a less than equals to 0. So you will get x belonging from minus a to a. So from here you can write like this also, x belongs from minus a to a. I hope this is clear to you. X square is less than equals to a square. So x minus a into x plus a, when it goes that side, x square minus a square. So x minus a into x plus a is less than equals to 0. Critical points are minus a and a. So x belongs from minus a to plus a, which can be written like this also. Mod x is less than equals to a. Mod x is less than equals to a. Similarly, suppose you had here x square greater than equals to a square, then your this set would have become minus infinity to minus a union a to infinity, and which could have been written like this. Mod x is greater than equals to a. Mod x is greater than equals to a. This particular set can be written like this, and this set minus a to a can be also written like this. Mod x is less than equals to a. I hope this concept is clear to you. The domain of this function is R and the range is 0 to infinity. That is your modulus function. Now let us move to greatest integer function and then fractional part of x. Note it down. Next function is greatest integer of x or greatest integer function. Greatest integer function, GIF, greatest integer function, which is denoted like this. Fx is equals to mod x. Fx is, sorry, not mod x, greatest integer function of x, GIF, like this, box x. Fx is equals to box x, or you can write y is equals to box x. I mean, we can pronounce it as box x, or you can call it as greatest integer function. What is the definition? Definition means it is the greatest integer less than or equal to x. It is the greatest integer less than or equal to x. It is the greatest integer less than or equal to x. For example, let us say this is your number line. Suppose someone is asking greatest integer of 1.75. Greatest integer of 1.75. So 1.75 is somewhere here. Now what is the greatest integer? Greatest integer which is less than or equal to x. So since this is not an integer, so we have to see the lesser number, lesser integer. So greatest integer. Now this 1 is the greatest integer which is less than 1.75. So the greatest integer function is 1. I hope this is clear to you. Similarly, someone asks 1.99. So that is also 1 only. Greatest integer of 1.99 is also 1 only. But what about greatest integer of 2? So greatest integer of 2. So what is the definition? Greatest integer less than or equal to x. So this time, see, greatest integer which is less than or equal to x. Now this is the integer itself, so I will take it as 2. What about 2.1? For 2.1 also it will become 2. Suppose someone asks greatest integer of minus 1.75. So where is minus 1.75? See here, minus 1.75 is here. So what is the greatest integer which is less than minus 1.75? So less than minus 1 is minus 2. I hope this is clear to you. This concept is clear. Greatest integer of 0.2 is how much? 0. 0.2. So that is 0. So if you see your output is only integers. Your input, that is your domain, can be any real number, but the output is only integers. So I write domain is R, whereas your range is nothing but the set of integers, I or Z. Any symbol you can use. Z is also used for integers, or even you can use I. So that is your range. Let us see the graph of this function. That is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. So let us say 0, 1, 2, minus 1, and this is minus 2. Now for 0, what is the greatest integer? 0 only. For 0.1 also 0, for 0.2 also 0, till 0.999 it is 0. And for all the numbers including 0 and lying between 0 to 1, excluding 1, for them y is always 0. But what is the greatest integer function of 1? For 1 it is 1. So what I'll do is I'll put a hole here in order to make sure that at 1 the y is 1 but not 0. So it is 1. What about 1.1? It is 1. What about 1.2? That is 1. What about 1.9 and 1? So for all the integers lying from 1 to 2, the greatest integer again is 1. And what about at 2? At 2 the greatest integer will become what? 2. So this graph will keep on going like this. Now between minus 1 to 0, for all the numbers greatest integer is how much? Minus 1. At minus 1, for minus 1 the greatest integer is minus 1, but for 0 the greatest integer is how much? 0. So I will put a hole here and a dash here. I hope this graph is clear to you. This is also known as step function. Step function, because you see the graph, it is like steps. So that is your step function. This is a discontinuous function actually. It is not a continuous function. This continuity and discontinuity we are going to see in differential calculus. So that is your discontinuous function. So I hope this concept is clear to you. Domain is your R, whereas range is your integers. Now let us talk about some properties of greatest integer function. Some properties we can see as we have seen in modulus also, that will be helpful to solve the questions. So the first property here is that greatest integer of minus x. Greatest integer of minus x, if x belongs to I. If x belongs to I means integers. If x belongs to I, then greatest integer of minus x can be written as, observe here carefully. Suppose you are having minus 3, greatest integer of minus 3. So that is what? Can you write it like this? Minus of 3. Can you take this minus out? Yes. Why? Because greatest integer of 3 is how much? 3 and minus 3. So greatest integer of minus 3 is minus 3. It means you can write like this, minus of greatest integer of x. So greatest integer of minus x can be written as minus of greatest integer of x. It means that this minus sign can be taken out. I hope this is clear to you. But suppose if x does not belongs to I. If x do not belongs to I. For example, this. Let us say minus 2.75. Minus 2.75. Now, what is the greatest integer function of minus 2.75? Greatest integer function of minus 2.75 is minus 3. Greatest integer of minus 2.75 is minus 3. Now if you take the minus sign out, if you write minus of 2.75, but greatest integer function of 2.75 is how much? 2. So that will give you minus 2. But greatest integer is minus 3, yani this is incorrect. So directly you cannot take minus sign out. But what you can do is you can write like this. Minus of 2.75 minus 1, yani you can subtract 1. So greatest integer of 2.75 is 2, so minus 2 minus 1, which is how much? Minus 3. So I have to write like this, minus greatest integer of x minus 1. This is the property. Greatest integer of minus x is minus greatest integer of x if x belongs to I, and minus greatest integer of x minus 1 if x does not belongs to I. I hope this property is clear. Another property what you can observe here is that greatest integer of x plus k. Greatest integer of x plus k, where k is an integer. Here k is an integer, k belongs to I. Can be written like this, greatest integer of x plus k. Greatest integer of x plus k can be written as greatest integer of x plus k. You can observe here, suppose you are having 1.7 plus 2. 1.7 plus 2. So this is basically how much? Left hand side is a box of 2.7, which is how much? 2. 1.7 plus 2. So greatest integer of 2.7 is how much? 2, which can be written like this. Greatest integer of 1.7 plus 2. Now greatest integer of this is 1.7 plus 2 is 3.7, which is 3 here. And greatest integer of 1.7 is how much? 1 plus 2 is how much? 3. I hope this is clear to you. box of 1.7 plus 2, 3.7, and its box is 3, which can be written like this also. What I am trying to say is that this k, if it is an integer, can be taken out like this. I hope both the properties are clear to you. So the domain of this box function or step function or GIF, greatest integer function, is R, whereas range is your integers. So that is your greatest integer function. Let me move to the next function, which is fractional part of x, or fractional function. Note it down. Okay, so let us continue with the next function, which is your fractional part function. Fractional part function. Try to understand that without these basic concepts, you will not be able to solve 12th standard mathematics for sure. These are the basic concepts you must know, and these are important for not only your board exams, but very important for mains and advanced. I mean, you cannot expect a good score in your actually you cannot do mathematics at all if you don't know these concepts. That is as far as your 12th standard mathematics is concerned. So observe them, try to understand them properly. Fractional part function. Fractional part function. So we can give an expression like this. This is your fractional part of x. This is the symbol we have given, or we can call it as y is equals to fractional part of x. Y is equals to fractional part of x. So basically, what is the meaning of fractional part is that any x, any real number x is made up of two parts. What we are saying is that, try to understand the concepts. Any x is made up of two parts. One is an integer and another is a fraction. One is an integer and another is a fraction. Now this integer is nothing but your greatest integer function. Try to understand. This integer, what we have to take is the greatest integer function, and whatever remaining is there. For example, 2.5. 2.5. Now what is the greatest integer function of 2.5? 2 plus what is the remaining fraction? 0.5. 0.5, which you can write it as 1 by 2 also. Okay, but you can express it in decimal forms also. That is fine. So this is your fractional part of 2.5. Apart from the greatest integer function, whatever is remaining, that becomes your fractional part of x. For example, suppose you are having 3. So for greatest integer function of 3 is 3 plus 0. Here the fraction is basically your 0. Suppose you are having let us say 1.75. So greatest integer 1 plus the remaining part is your fractional part of x. Let us say you are having minus 3.6. Minus 3.6. So what is the greatest integer function of minus 3.6? Minus 4, not minus 3, minus 4. Check your number line. This is minus 4, minus 3, here is minus 3.6, this minus 4. And what is the remaining part? 0.4. 0.4. Not 0.6, 0.4. Because from minus 4 when you add 0.4, in minus 4 when you add 0.4 you get minus 3.6. I hope this is clear to you. You are understanding? You have to be careful. So what I am trying to say is that in any real number x, there is the greatest integer and the remaining part is your fractional part of x. Now if you see carefully, the fractional part of x, the domain of the fractional part is R. I mean in this function you can put any number. Suppose you are asking me fractional part of 3.61. So I will say 0.61. So you are asking me fractional part of 1.92. That is 0.92. So if you see the domain is R, any number you can put, whereas range is basically from 0 to 1. 0 is included, whereas 1 is excluded. I hope this concept is clear to you. If you see the graph, let us see the graph. Let us say this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. 0, 1, 2, minus 1, minus 2. Now tell me, for 0 what is the fractional part? 0 only. For 0.1, 0.1 for 0.2, 0.2 for 0.3, 0.3 for 0.4, 0.4 for 0.99, 0.99. Yes or no? Fractional part of 0.1 is how much? Greatest integer is how much? 0, and remaining part is how much? 0.1. So it is 0.1. So if you see that between 0 to 1, this graph is like y is equals to x. This graph is like y is equals to x. Why? because for 0.1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.2, 0.3, 0.3. So it's like an identity function between 0 to 1. What is the fractional part of 1? Fractional part of 1 is basically greatest integer 1 is 1 plus 0. So your fractional part is how much? 0. So at 1 there will be a whole here and fractional part will become 0. For the integer, fractional part is 0. Then between 1 to 2, for 1.1, 0.1, for 1.2, 0.2, for 1.3, 0.3, for 1.1, what is the fractional part? 0.1, because greatest integer is 1. So here if you see, the graph will be like this, and you can continue, you can use the same approach and complete this graph. So that is your graph. Now you observe your domain is R, all the elements of x-axis can be put in this function, whereas your range is nothing but 0 to 1 only. For range, as I told you, you have to always see the y-axis. Range is 0 to 1, 0 is included and 1 is excluded. So that is your range. Restricted function, it is a restricted function. So that is your concept of your fractional part of x. I hope this concept is clear to you. So let me do one thing. Let me move to the next function, which is your, so basically I can write like this also, x is equals to box x plus fractional part of x, or x is equals to box x plus fractional part of x. Okay, this is your equation for any real number x. So let me move to the next function, which is signum function. So our next function, till now if you see carefully, we have taken your constant function, identity function, then we have moved to modulus function, greatest integer function and fractional part function. Now we are moving to function number 6th, which is your signum function. Signum function, important function, and particularly for your mains and advanced, this is an important function, signum function, which can be represented like this, sgnx, or you can write y is equals to sgnx, signum function. So let us try to understand the definition of this. Signum x meaning is mod x by x whenever x is not 0 and 0 when x is 0. Try to understand. These are multi-valued functions actually. Multi-valued function means split is there. When x is non-zero, then you have to use mod x by x. When x is 0, then you have to use 0. When x is non-zero, then you have to substitute your x here, and if x is 0, then you have to substitute your 0 here. For example, suppose you are asking me signum of 2. Signum 2. What is signum 2? Now 2 is 0 or non-zero? Obviously 2 is non-zero. So use this definition, mod 2 by 2. Mod 2 is how much? 2. And 2 by 2 is how much? 1. So signum 2 is 1. Suppose you ask me signum minus 3. Signum of minus 3. Now minus 3, whether it is 0 or non-zero? Obviously non-zero. So substitute here, mod of minus 3 by minus 3. Now mod of minus 3 is how much? 3. 3 by minus 3 is how much? Minus 1. If you ask me signum of 0, so where should I use? Here or here? Since my x is 0, so I have to use here. So what is the output? 0. Use this output, 0. I hope this concept is clear to you. This can be written like this also. Mod x you know is what? Plus x or minus x. Now x is non-zero, so either x will be positive or x will be negative. So I can use like this. If x is greater than 0, then mod x becomes x, and x by x becomes what? 1. If x is less than 0, then mod x becomes what? Minus x, and minus x by x is how much? Minus 1. And when x is 0, then how much it is? 0. You can write it like this also. I hope it is clear to you. For example, here 2 was greater than 0, so the output became how much? 1. Here minus 3 is less than 0, so output became how much? Minus 1. Here 0, so for that output is 0. You can do like this also. You want to see the graph? Let me show you the graph also. This is your x-axis. This is your y-axis. Now if x is greater than 0, output is how much? 1. So for all the x greater than 0, output is how much? 1. I have to put a hole here, because for x equals to 0, output is how much? 0. This is your 1. And for x less than 0, output is how much? -1. This is x less than 0, output is how much? -1. Again I have to put a hole here. I hope this graph is clear to you. For all the x greater than 0, the output is always a 1, because it's a constant actually. At 0 it is 0. So I have to put a hole here to ensure that at x equals to 0 the output is 0, and for x less than 0 output is -1. So if you see carefully, your domain is R and your range is how much? -1, 0 and 1. Domain is R and range is -1, 0 and 1. Domain is R, range is -1, 0 and 1. I hope it is clear to you. Note it down. Let's continue to the next function, which is function number 7, exponential function. It is exponential function. Exponential function. Observe here, exponential function. So we can denote it like this: fx is equals to a power x. But here the condition is that a has to be greater than 0 and should not be equals to 1. Here this base, it has to be a positive number except 1. A should be greater than 0, should not be 1. Otherwise it will not become an exponential function. Okay. For example, your y is equals to 2 power x, or you can also say 1 by 2 power x. See, this is a positive number which is greater than 0, and it is not 1 also, or you can have like this also, 1 by 2 power x. So based on this, there can be two conditions on a. Condition number 1 can be a is greater than 1, and another condition can be a is lying from 0 to 1. A can be greater than 1 because a is greater than 0. This is your 0, this is your 1. So a should not be 1. A is greater than 0 except 1. So what I am breaking is, I am breaking a greater than 1, and another region I am taking is 0 to 1. So here if you draw the graph of the exponential function a power x, then the graph you are going to get like this. For x equals to 0, anything raised to 0 is what? Anything raised to 0 is 1. For x 0, what you are going to get? Y is 1. So that is your exponential function, y is equals to a power x. Whereas for 0 to 1, if you draw the graph, you will get like this, decreasing function. Here it will be a decreasing graph. Again, here also at x equals 0, y will be 1 only. This is the graph of y is equals to a power x. This is the condition of your a, and this is the graph of y is equals to a power x, and the condition is a is greater than 1. You can take any one example, 2 power x or 1 by 2 power x, anything, and you can plot it. This is the graph you get. If you see in both the cases, domain is your R. Domain means x here, the collection of x. Domain is your R, whereas your range is basically from 0 to infinity. This graph will never touch this axis. It means the graph will never attain 0. Same here. So I am writing domain is R, range is your 0 to infinity, 0 excluded, 0 to infinity. Domain is your real numbers, whereas your range means the collection of your y, that will be 0 to infinity. I hope this graph is clear to you. You have to be careful when it is increasing. It is increasing when your a is greater than 1, and it is decreasing when your a belongs from 0 to 1. So that is the concept of your exponential function. I hope it is clear to you. And the last function which is remaining is now log function or logarithmic function. Let me take that also. Meanwhile you note it down. So let us move to the last graph, which is your log function. Let us see the graph of this function, logarithmic function. So I will say y is equals to log x base a. Now this is the same a which was the base there in exponents. So the condition of your a is retained here as it is, a greater than 0 and not equals to 1. And the input for the log function has to be always a positive number, so x will be greater than 0. That is how it is defined actually. Okay, that is how it is defined. All these the relationship between log and exponents we will see in your inverse functions. In this series one more type will come, which is your inverse functions. In that you will explain it in depth why this is happening. But now as it is, we have to just see the graph and domain and range. So a greater than 0 not equals to 1 and x is greater than 0. Now from this a, again I take two conditions. One is a greater than 1 and another is a belonging from 0 to 1. For a greater than 1, the graph is this. This is your 1 comma 0. And for a belonging from 0 to 1, this is the graph. Here is the increasing function and here is the decreasing function. This is increasing, decreasing also you are going to study in depth in differential calculus. So again here it is 1 comma 0. So if you see carefully, your domain is always a positive quantity excluding 0. So 0 to infinity. That's why I told you your x has to be greater than 0. Whereas your range, if you see, range, for range what you have to see? You have to see the y-axis. Now if you see both the graphs, both of them are covering your entire y. It means range is how much? R, which is your minus infinity to infinity. So that is your domain and that is your range. If you see the domain and range of this log function, that is exactly your interchanged with the domain and range of your exponential function. Domain here of log function was your range of exponential function, and the range here of log function was the domain of your exponential function. The reason is they are inverse functions. More on this we are going to discuss later. Some properties of log function you must know. Some properties of log function. First is log 1 base a is 0. Log 1 is always 0. Okay, log 1 is always 0. And apart from that, what you can know is log a base a is 1. Log a base a is 1. Whenever you have like this, log x base a is equals to log y base a, then you can write x is equals to y. Suppose you have this, log x base a is greater than log y base a. Now what should you write? Whether x greater than y or x less than y. So you have to think. See, you have to write x greater than y only if your base a is more than 1. If your base a is more than 1, then only you have to write x greater than y. If your base a lies from 0 to 1, then this inequality will reverse. Then you have to write x less than y. So that is another property of log. Apart from that, you know that log a power n is equals to n log a. So that property is also there. Suppose you have like this, log b base a, that can be done as 1 by log a base b. So these are the properties of log. I hope this concept is clear to you. Domain is your 0 to infinity, range is from minus infinity to infinity. That is your set of real numbers. That's it for this session. I hope this session is clear to you, and we are going to take the next session, which is calculations of domain and range of a function. I am going to take different cases how to find the domain and range of a function. So I hope today's class is clear to you, and keep on watching the videos, subscribe the channel, make maximum use of the Laksh Academy app. That's it. Thank you. Keep enjoying. Thank you.